Good morning, students.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, our today's topic is the rule of law. Yes. And under this topic, our learning objective is that by the end of the lesson, we will be able to define the concept, rule of law. And you should be able to also demonstrate how to obey the law, how to comply with the law, and comply with due process in our society. And you should also be able to highlight the three major principles of the rule of law and how to speak against the abuse of rule of law. And the last objective of this class that I expect every one of you is that you should be able to identify at least 5 factors that limit the applications of the rule of law. And we're going to have a mini course session on how to protect the rule of law in our Nigerian society. So let's proceed. So we have this man, John Acton, a British parliamentarian, and he said that all power tends to corrupt and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And it's just a truth of power because power intoxicates. Someone that is well behaved, well mannered, doing well, but immediately the person got the power, you see the person will start misbehaving. And that's the reason Abraham Lincoln, the former president of USA, said that if you want to test the true character of a man, give him power. So when you give a man power, you see the true color of that person, of that man. And that's the reason he said that. You have an example, a case whereby a councillor that was elected by the people of a particular community or ward, and they elect him to fix things in the community. But immediately they elect that councillor, that we see that community as not safe for him again, and they move to Lekki. And someone, before he became a governor, councillor is safe, but when he became a councillor, it's not safe again. Of course, if it is not safe for you, you fix the security issue. But so that's true that power corrupt and absolute power corrupt absolutely. And if you want to tell the true identity of a man, give him power. So I want us to note this man, John Acton. I'm going to ask you at the end of the class, I'm going to evaluate you. And also the statement of Abraham Lincoln. That is, if you want to test the true character of a man, give him power. So let's proceed. Yes, it's because of all this said by John Acton and Abraham Lincoln that A.B. Dicey came up with a book, and that book was popular, and it marked the genesis of the rule of law in the history of the world. And that book is Introduction to the Study of the Law of the Constitution. He published it in 1885, and it talks about the rule of law, why a country must have a constitution where the rights of the people have to be respected, where those in power have to obey the law of the land. Then, what is rule of law? What do you understand by the concept rule of law to you, or what does it mean to you? Okay. We can just make an attempt. What does it mean to you?
Rule of law can simply be defined as the fact that every human or every individual stands to meet the law, that the law is above every human, no matter the status, age.
Thank you. I thought I want a clap. Yes, that everybody must submit to the law, that the law is above every one. That's what I'm going to get from you. Okay. Yeah. Okay, good. I want to clap again. The rule of law is the supremacy of the law, that everyone still have another attempt. Okay.
Supremacy of law over everybody.
The supremacy of the law over everybody. So you have not all made a fantastic contribution that you actually read your text of the scheme of work. So it is a, but let's check the definition according to AVDIC. So according to AVDIC, rule of law is actually the absolute supremacy. Absolute. When you say something is absolute, that is total, without doubt. That is the supreme, the final. So it is final. It is the absolute supremacy of the law over everybody. Over everybody. Both the rulers and the ruled. And over all the decisions that are being made in the country. So that's the rule of law. So rule of law is the supremacy, absolute supremacy of the law over everyone, both the ruled and the ruler. When we say both the ruled, which person can be referring to both the ruled? The ruled. Both the citizen of the country. What about the rulers? The government. Yes, thank you. The government. Give yourself a round of applause. So that is the rule of law. So I want you to read it out loud before we move to the next stage on the rule of law. Rule of law is what?
Rule of law is the absolute supremacy of law over everybody, both the rulers and the ruled, and over all decisions taken in the country.
So every decision taken in that country must be according to the law of the land. If the action is not taken according to the law of the land, we call it unconstitutional. Unconstitutional. An unconstitutional action or decision is against the rule of law. And the country that obey the rule of law, they tend to be more prosperous. And of course, you have the rule of law. Most of this law, the law of a country is made. Where is it made? Who are those people that made the law of the country? The legislature. Where did they make it? The National Assembly. The National Assembly. So the National Assembly, they have something like this. I don't know if you know what they call this. Maze. They call it maze. So you have a maze, just as you have a maze. Before any section can hold, there must be a maze. If there is no maze, which is the staff of authority, then no thing can be held. Anything that holds is void, none and void. Cannot have the backing of the law. So there must be a maze there. And the country where the legislature play their part, make a good law, that country tends to be prosperous, where we have all the aims and objectives of the country being achieved. Yes, can you give me, I want a short activities. Can you give me a scenario whereby rule of law is being abused in Nigeria? A situation whereby rule of law is being abused in Nigeria? Maybe one or two scenario that you witness or you have seen in Nigeria that you know that this is against the rule of law. Okay. COVID-19. The lockdown. That is it. But during the COVID-19, there is something that happened. EndSARS, yes, EndSARS. In fact, EndSARS is a good example of a scenario in Nigeria where rule of law is abused. And there are many other situations also in Nigeria. So let's proceed. So the next one is what are the principles of rule of law? So what are the principles of the rule of law? Okay.
Principle of equality.
Principle of equality, wow, brilliant. And principle of impartiality. Okay.
Principle of fundamental rights.
Wow, principle of fundamental rights. Give yourself a round of applause. That's good. So let's check each one after the other. Then according to erudicy, so we actually have three principles. We have many other principles, but the three major principles are these. The principles of equality before the law, the principle of impartiality, and the principle of right over in the according to yes. And of course, we have another principle like this principle of supremacy, that the law is supreme, but that's not the major. The major is this three according to erudicy. So now, what do we mean by equality before the law? Okay, thank you.
You simply can say that no matter your status, your age, or your gender, you are equal before the law.
Wow, brilliant. Wow, brilliant. Take clap. So the principle of equality, just as it said, is that everybody is equal, no matter your status. Either you are rich or poor, either you are in power or you are just a common citizen. That everybody has to be treated equal as the same. And that's why I love the Americans believe that we know this truth to be self-evidence that all men are created equal. And you are saying that she be labi omogba. So it means that everybody is equal. And that principle has to be obeyed, has to be complied with, that equality before the law and not favoring one at the expense of the other. The next one, impartiality. Impartiality is that the law should not be biased. It should not be biased. The law should be neutral. It should treat everyone fairly, and no one should be said to be guilty until charged to be guilty in the court of law. For example, no one is to be delayed for more than 48 hours imprisonment. Just hold the person. That's why if police should arrest you, you have the right not to use more than 48 hours in the police. Otherwise, they have to release you. So, and we also have the right of the individual. So the right of the individual is contained in which book in Nigeria? The right of the individual. Where can we find the right of an individual? Which book can we find it? The what? The Constitution. Yes. So we have the Constitution of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. So that contains the fundamental human rights, chapter 4 precisely. So you have your right to life, right to movement, right to freedom of expression, right to association. So you have it here in the 1999 Constitution. And it was the book of the rule of law that charged every country that they must have fundamental human rights embedded in their constitution. And country of the world today, there is no constitution that doesn't have fundamental human rights as a result of the principles of rule of law. So I want us to do a quick activity now. I'm going to select one as accused person, one as lawyer, and one as judge. So I'm going to make you as accused person, and you as the lawyer, and you as the judge. So now this person, of course, is accused of cheating. Then being punished without him letting him to know to say the side of the story. Of course, you have to tell your judge so that the judge can make a correction of that case. So let's have just 30 seconds if you can do that. So stand up, and the judge. Okay, you can also stand up. I will have lobbies to sit. But stand up so that you can have you can identify the judge. Yes. So the lawyer.
I client was cheated. I'm not saying it's part of the school.
No one has the right to bench anyone until the charge guilty in the court of law.
Okay, that's good. So you can give them the ballot. Okay, thank you. So See that? So you can see the scenario whereby accused person that was charged of cheating in the class and was not allowed to say the part of the story. And the lawyer standing that was explaining to the judge, and the judge said that nobody has the right to punish or pay anyone until that person is proven guilty in the court of law. So that scenario justifies three principles of equality before the law, impartiality, and the right of individual. Then the next one is, what are the factors that limit the application of the rule of law? Okay.
State of emergency.
The state of emergency, yes. Okay. Parliamentary immunity, yes. We see another one. Okay. Age limit or age, yes. Okay, do we still have another one? Okay. Good. So let's check it. So we have many factors. We have many factors that limit the application of the rule of law in the country, especially Nigeria. And one of the factors, some of the factors you already mentioned it. And we have number one, the state of emergency. There are some state of emergency, for example, like insecurity. And just currently we are experiencing that in Nigeria, the kidnapping of the school girls and so on and so forth. So the government can decide to put a curfew whereby it will restrict the movement of the people. And you can also see a good example like during the COVID-19 lockdown. In order to contain the spread of COVID-19, people have to be restricted to their home. Of course, you can say you have rights to move, but that situation is a state of emergency. You might not have the right to move to wherever you actually want to be. Even many countries closing down their border because to control COVID-19 spread to their country. So state of emergency can limit the application of the rule of law either as a result of insecurity or to contain some spread of diseases or one or things or the other. The other one is the type of government. You know, we have example like, can you give me a type of government that doesn't respect the right of the people? Okay. The military, wow. In fact, you nailed it. The military. Yes, you can clap. You want to clap. Yes. The military, they don't respect your rights. And this type of government, sometimes, of course, they came on board into power because they want to correct some insecurity. And when they correct it, some they want to leave the power. And as a result of this, they came into politics, they stay in the power, and they make use of decree. And that decree is a command. Whatever they say is final. You don't have rights. And limit the application of the rule of law. We have partial judiciary. If the judiciary they are not fair, if they favor one at the expense of the other, like for example, he who pay the piper, they take the tune. The executive they determine the caprice of decision of judge being passed in the country, because they are the one that elect the judge, they are the one that nominate the judge, elect the judge, and the judge has to dance to their tune. So partial judiciary. We have diplomatic immunity. And diplomatic immunity is, for example, those ambassadors, high commissioners, you cannot arrest them, even if they should commit a crime. Otherwise, you are declaring war on the other country that they represented. But you can file a petition against them for their countries to deal with it. But you in your country, you don't have the right to deal with them. But you have to file what? You have to file what? What do you have to file? Petition. Yes, thank you. Against them. And the next one is parliamentary immunity. A senator or a House of Rep member can say anything on the floor in the House, and nobody will charge them from slander or libel. Because the immunity, the parliamentary immunity is holding them, so it's protecting them. So whatever they say is fine. You can't charge them in the court of law, and this actually affects or limits the application of the rule of law. The next one is police brutality, and you have a good example of the police brutality, the NSAS scenario, and it's still happening today. Police brutality every day, every night. The official position held. Official position held also limits the application of the rule of law. For example, the governor, if they should commit a crime, you cannot arrest them. The president, you cannot arrest them because immunity is protecting them. But when they leave the power, they seek them, you cannot arrest them. And the reason is because if they charge them to court, it will be a distraction for them to do their duty or their job. That's the reason they cannot arrest them. And even some situation whereby, look at, for example, in this school, there's a situation we have the law of that you must not dump refuse on the ground anyhow, then you have to be punished. But if the principal now should dump a refuse, do you think the principal will be punished for that? Why? Maybe because the position you occupy, the power. So some people, the power they occupy also is limiting the application of the rule of law. You also have special tribunal like Sharia courts. Now, like in the north, you are not permitted to drink alcohol. You will be charged to court. Sharia, because they operate Sharia law there. And situation whereby you are a Satana and you went there and you are charged to Sharia court and you are a Christian. You see, there's no balance there. Using Islam law or Christian individual. The next one is integrity of the judge. Some judge that is corrupt. So you see, you will not receive a fair judgment. The economic position. Who will arrest Dangote? Who will arrest Otedola? Because they have the economic power. And of course, this limits the application of the rule of law. The age limit is also one factor that if under 18 should commit a crime, they can just be sent to juvenile home until he's 18 years old. So, and the last one, insanity. A man, you see a man person coming, holding a knife, you run for your life. Because if he should harm you, there is no case. And because they believe that he is insane, that person is not mentally stable. That's why you see some people, they will commit a crime and they will now pretend to having psychiatric problem. They will pretend that they should go and check them, and if they should come that is declared that they have a psychiatric problem, they will punish them, they will leave. So you can see these are the limitations to the application of law. We came to the last section, which is evaluation and quiz. So I'm going to have two groups, group 1 and group 2. So group 1, group 2. So I'm going to be asking you the question. So let's check the first group. So where is group 1? This is group 1. Group 1, group 2. So group 1. Absolute power corrupt, absolutely. Praise is credited to who? Okay. John Acton, yes, good. A clap. Question number 2, group 2. If you want to test the true character of a man, give him power. It's credited to who? No, it's not your question. Abraham Lincoln, yes. A clap. Question number 3, group 1. That's to panel the theory of rule of law. Who could panel the theory of the rule of law? Okay. A-B, Dicey. So do you know the full meaning of A-B? Advert. Then V is Venn. Like Venn diagram for set. A-B-I-C. Advert. Then I-C. Yes. So a class of them. So, group 2. Why must we respect the rule of law? Okay.
To ensure peace and justice, peace and unity.
Unity in the country. Yes. Listen another one.
Progress.
To ensure progress in the country. Yes, a clap. Yes. So you have group 1 you have 10 points. Group 2 you also have 10 points. The scale of justice. I want the students to explain the scale of justice. Okay, so you come out to explain. Okay.
So this is the of justice. This is where the truth evidence is, and the evidence for the other one.
Okay.
The false evidence is it. And justice, the human kindness is meant for the principle that justice does not use emotion, it only deals with evidence.
Wow, give a sounding round of applause. That's good. So assignments, so recommend at least 5 factors that can aid the successful application of the rule of law. So thank you. Give yourself a round of applause. Thank you.